I want to thank you all for your contributions on our discussion board on the Spitzer. I have the image of the Spitzer telescope up here behind me. And as you notice, everything looks like it's red in color. I look red in color. I'm wearing my red shirt and everything. So on Star Trek, I would be about to be killed probably on the original series for being a red shirted person, but no, never mind. I appreciate your work on the Spitzer, and I'm just doing this as a response rather than writing individual things because we're at the last discussion board of our class. And I wanted to say a couple of things about the Spitzer as well as about our class in general. I got the idea for this discussion board when I read this book here called More Things in the Heavens. And the subtitle is How Infrared Astronomy is Expanding Our View of the Universe. And it's by two astronomers, one of whom I've met and one I know of professionally, Werner and Eisenhardt. And you can actually order this from Amazon or other places and get it. It is a science book, but it's also not a technical one. And I bought this and I thought, well, it'll just give me some data. It'll just give me some stuff and updates on the telescope. But it was really interesting, surprisingly interesting. So I recommend this book because as I mentioned in our discussion board, everybody knows about the Hubble. And the Hubble is a great, great thing. And I don't want to take anything away from the Hubble. But there's so much more out there in the universe than the narrow band that our eyes in Roy G. Biv can see. And having the Spitzer is like having night vision goggles for the universe because it's looking at that infrared range that's a much wider range. There's this much range for our Roy G. Biv, our visual light, and there's this much range for the infrared. And there are a lot of cool stuff, and I don't just mean cool, I mean actually cooler stuff that doesn't radiate out the way the sun does. If the sun wasn't here, we wouldn't see the Earth, we wouldn't see the moon, we wouldn't see any of the planets, any of the asteroids, any of the comets, anything except in infrared. We would still be able to see them that way. So there's a lot of stuff out there that the Spitzer did really great work. And here's another thing about a lot of images that you'll see from NASA and other space agencies and other places on science websites. They often take the photographs and or the data for the photographs, and they work it so that you get a fuller picture of what you're looking at. And what happens, a lot of people don't realize this, they'll take a Hubble image, but then they'll take our Spitzer image and they'll flesh it out and they'll make it a better image than what you would have had if you just had the Hubble by itself. So I really do appreciate your taking the time to look at the Spitzer stuff. This is the book that inspired me to do that discussion board question that we have there. And I'm also interested that it sort of stopped during just last year's class at the same time. And I'm really enthused at the idea of the fact that we're continuing to get data that hasn't been processed yet from the Spitzer. So even though the Spitzer itself is not operating anymore, we still have lots of stuff we can discover from what it's done. And that'll be true for at least the next half decade, if not more. That's a really effective mission. That's a really effective telescope. And it's part of what was called the Great Observatories series. I know a couple of you mentioned that in your discussion board posts. The Hubble is one of those, the Spitzer is another. And we've sent up things to look in gamma ray and X-ray and other kinds of bandwidths, as well as our ground-based things that are looking for other things like gravity waves. We are on the edge of a new golden age of understanding the universe. And one of the things that's coming up is the James Webb Telescope that will have a much greater capability and a much greater range than either the Spitzer or the Hubble had. And we should just get so many more interesting discoveries out of that. And we have begun to approximate with ground-based telescopes the same clarity and the same depth that we can get from the Hubble as well. So it's a really exciting time technologically to be part of things in astronomy. some of you may know this is an online course. It's part of what's called Ivy Online, which means essentially everyone gets the same course, regardless of what professor you've got, except we as professors are given some areas where we can make changes. And one of the areas that we can make changes is what discussion question you have. So you are the group that got to talk about the Spitzer. I don't think any other course, any other section of the course was talking about the Spitzer and getting to get involved with that. You're also the only group that got to see all the celebrities because that's something that I did as well. And there is an extra credit discussion board up for you to give me some feedback. I really want to know what you think about it because it's something that I found fun. It started last summer with, I had a conversation with John Cleese and I posted it up almost as a joke for the course that I had at that time and everyone loved it. So I started asking other friends and friends of friends because I used to be in comedy and I know a few people in show business and everyone started responding. The key here is they were all out of work. None of them were working on television or movies or other, all productions had shut down. So they were available. Trisha Helfer, who was #6 on Battlestar Galactica, Lucifer's mother on Lucifer, and playing Dracula on Van Helsing, she said it in her video as well. She's like, well, I'm sitting here in a hotel room for 2 weeks doing nothing but learning lines. Why not make a video for Kurt's class? I'm very grateful to all the celebrities who gave me things, but I'm very grateful to you to watch them and understand that this is something special for our classes. This is not something that goes to every other Ivy Online class. This is something that because you lucked into being in my class, you get to have that there. And I appreciate any feedback you give me on that because I'm not sure as we go into a non-virtual setting, we'll cross our fingers because the Delta is out there. But as we go into something that is more face-to-face or less all online, I may or may not continue to use those videos, especially if we're not in COVID times anymore, because a lot of the videos reference that. So I might have to go through and edit and glean. And I think there are about 70 different videos up there now, and that's a lot of editing. So I may just discontinue it altogether, but I want your feedback to let me know whether this is something that you found useful or valuable or fun or helpful or whatever. So I do appreciate your being part of this class, being part of this section. If you haven't received it already, you'll probably receive something that asks you to evaluate your professors. Please fill that out. Please fill that out for me. Please fill that out for other professors as well. It is good for the Ivy Online people to know who's being an effective teacher and who's not as effective. Different people have different strengths and some people teach better online, some people teach better face-to-face, some people teach better in different kinds of settings. Everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses, and we're as teachers, we should be welcoming your input as well on what we can do better. Because my goal is for you to learn, my goal is for you to succeed, and my ultimate goal here is, and here's the little secret. I don't care what grade you get in this class. I don't care what grade you get on any assignment. What I care about is that 5 years from now, when you see a news report on Spitzer, 10 years from now, when you see a news report on the James Webb Telescope, 20 years from now, when you see us having drones on the planet or on the moon Europa, which is around the planet Jupiter, or on the moon Titan, which we've already landed on, which is around Saturn, or when we start picking up signals from other planets, you will think back to this class and think, I learned something about that. It's not a complete mystery. It's something that you know, because most of you will not go on to be astronomers. I get that. I really do. And a lot of you will have a lot of classes in your time in this college. And if you go on to university and go on to other schools there as well, courses that don't directly apply to a job that you're going to have, but they do have a direct and indirect effect on your life. They have a relationship because you live in the universe. This is where you live. This stuff is in your sky. This is stuff that, whether you know it or not, makes a difference in the universe, makes a difference in the world. And whether or not we know about the stuff that's out there makes a difference on how we view ourselves in the universe. That's true in philosophy, that's true in history, that's true in literature, that's true in social sciences. Knowing where you are in the universe, whether it's the philosophical universe or the continuum of history and the culture that you've been in, all of these different things, they make a difference because they enrich your life in a way that can't be done simply by Googling stuff. Google is great, believe me, and I have my phone right over here, and I'm forever looking up information, but knowing enough to use the information. That's what I hope I've provided for you in this class. Knowing just enough that when you get an article that comes on your phone about astronomy, when you see something from NASA, when you see something from JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, when you see something from ESA, the European Space Agency, when you see something about China and India competing to get to the moon, when you see all of these things, you'll think, I know a little bit more about that. And it makes sense. At least I'll hope it makes sense. And I hope this course has made a little sense to you as well. I have to say, I am so happy with the level of participation in our class. I am so happy with the kind of information that you have talked about in our discussion boards, and the wonderful pictures that you've sent. I know they're required for the labs, but I really have appreciated seeing you and seeing your stuff, because it can be so distant in these online settings. I hope you've enjoyed hearing me and seeing me and getting to know me just a little bit along the way, because of course we are nearing, I'm recording this on Thursday and our class officially ends on Saturday. Don't tell anyone, I'll still take your stuff on Sunday. And yeah, don't tell my boss. I said I'll take things on Sunday. But the end is near. So yep, as Homer Simpson says, the end is near. And I want you to realize that this is just the end of your class, but it's not the end of your being in the universe. And it's not your end of learning. Hopefully that will never end in your lifetime. And you will always be a part of the universe. You know what? You're stuck with it. So thanks for being part of the class.